The difficult decision of divorce and the effect that it had on her daughter left CHERYL in tremendous pain. She finds it hard to talk about, even today.
It was just... the time that I knew that my marriage was over and that I was going to have to do something that would hurt Jordan. And I was the biggest star that I ever dreamed I could ever be. And all of that was happening at the same moment. It was very hard. It was the best of times and the worst of times, all at the same moment. And it was really hard to find my way through it. It still hurts. But God helped me a lot. And my family helped me a lot. And Stoppy and Dolores were my anchors, and my sister, and people that really loved me. And Jordan, my daughter. When you get through things like that in your life, they change you. They really demand you either survive it, and it really forges your character, and it forces you to take the responsibility of who you're going to be in your life for the rest of your life.
In spite of the pain that both she and her daughter felt over the divorce, CHERYL knew that she'd made the right decision. What she didn't know is that someone in her midst was about to win her heart and bring joy to her life in ways she had always dreamed of. I'm Michael York. CHERYL LADD, An Intimate Portrait, will continue in a moment.
Lifetime. Television for women.
Grace's husband left her flat broke.
How much I owe them?
£300,000.
Pardon?
Now she's forming a joint venture.
You know that plant? How much is it worth?
More than gold.
Really? Business is growing.
These are torches.
And they're laughing. All the way to the bank.
It's good. Is it? Oh.
Saving Grace.
I love Grace.
Rated R. Now playing Select City. Starts Friday, Additional City.
How Linda Carter became a real-life superhero.
There was part of me that was dying.
Intimate Portrait, Linda Carter. Tomorrow night at 7 on Lifetime.
Lifetime. Television for women.
I'm Michael York. We now return to CHERYL LADD, An Intimate Portrait. The painful divorce from her husband, David, helped CHERYL LADD begin a process of rediscovery. During this time, CHERYL turned her attention to her first love, music. She recorded an album for Capitol Records. The song, Think It Over, became a hit, and CHERYL got a chance to work with her friends, singers and songwriters Brian and Brenda Russell.
I was dying to sing some of Brian and Brenda's songs because I was such a fan of theirs and I loved their material, so I recorded a song called Think It Over, which became a top 40 record. And in Japan, it was a #1 record. I was the #1 recording artist with that song in Japan for a while.
Along with the success of her album, CHERYL took on a role and ultimately a cause that would profoundly affect her life. In 1979, she developed and starred in When She Was Bad. The film dealt with the harsh realities of child abuse and gave CHERYL an opportunity to go beyond Charlie's Angels.
I didn't want to just play the social worker or the person that fixes it all. I wanted to play the abuser. I wanted people to know that it is the person next door. It crosses all race lines and economic lines, and it happens in households all over this country that you would never suspect it happening in.
Her role as an abuser was a breakthrough, and CHERYL began to establish herself as more than just a pretty face. During this time of incredible change, CHERYL's relationship to her longtime friend, Brian Russell, began to transform.
If somebody had said to Brian and I, when we met and we were with these other people, that someday we wouldn't be with these people and we would be married to each other, we would have thought they were from Mars.
I looked at her as a beautiful woman, as a beautiful girl, but to speculate beyond that, it was just not in my lexicon. And with her, it was the same thing. I mean, when we were married, we were really married, you know. And we were both trying very hard to make other marriages work.
Despite their efforts, both of their marriages had ended. They sought comfort in their familiar friendship. And while Brian and Cheryl were spending time together, so were their daughters. A new family was slowly developing.
I think our relationship came out of friendship, and I was more comfortable with her as a friend rather than having any delusion about anything else. It just never crossed my mind. So she was actually the one, I think, that made the first moves.
And one evening it occurred to me that he was very attractive. I thought, you know, he's a really attractive guy, and he's so nice, and we had many conversations, and in a way it was we realized it was the first time we'd ever been alone together, for one thing, and then alone and not married to other people. So when we found each other kind of attractive on this evening, we were going like, this is so weird. And I said, are you feeling a little strange? And he said, yeah. I could tell that he was kind of finding me attractive and feeling uncomfortable about it also. I said, look, this is stupid. We're friends all these years, and, you know, I don't want to blow a friendship here. I said, look, I got an idea. Why don't you kiss me? We'll just laugh our butts off and get this over with, and, you know, whatever this is, you know. He kissed me, and we've been together ever since. That's all I can tell you. It was some kiss. And it's true. We were, from the first kiss. It was like, hello, where have you been?
Brian and Cheryl's instant connection grew into a profound love. She knew that they were meant for one another. And as with everything else in her life, Cheryl used persistence to get what she wanted.
Well, I sort of proposed to him for months. Without ever saying, will you marry me? I always had conversations about, you know, our life together, and kind of, I always projected our future. You know, I was always us, and, you know, and when we, and you know, I just knew that we would get married, and that we needed to get married and should get married, and that we were meant for each other. I knew it. I just had to convince him of it.
She had kind of intimated that we'd be married time and time again, and I finally got it together to ask her if she'd marry me, and she said she'd have to think about it, which is so typical of her.
I panicked. I absolutely panicked. There's no excuse for it. I panicked. And of course, you know, 5 minutes later, I'm going, duh, what do you do? Of course. I've been waiting for this, and of course you want to marry him. But, you know, when it actually happened, I panicked. Oh, that poor man.
Soon after that botched proposal, Cheryl and Brian exchanged their vows high up in the Rocky Mountains. Surrounded by their loved ones, they began their journey as a new couple and a new family. Despite their love for one another, Brian and Cheryl were faced with some difficult situations. The blending of their two families wasn't always easy.
It was really difficult. Jordan was pretty tough on me because she was so in love with her dad, and for obvious reasons. I think little girls and their dads it's a really special thing.
I had known Brian before as Lindsay's dad because they were friends of our family. And Lindsay and I were playmates from a very early age. So it wasn't, in that sense, it was easier to accept Lindsay as a sister than to accept another father. So it was pretty rocky in the beginning.
I think they were very good about not making us feel weird and making it feel like, you know, this is, I've always felt like Jordan is my sister. I don't have another sister. And I think that Cheryl's always been my other mom. It was never, well, she's your daughter, you figure that out. They were always a team. You know, they always worked together.
I just think that they always had a real respect for both the girls, and the girls respected them. And when you have that combination, then you have really good kids.
Literally, when they came to our house, we became Ozzie and Harriet. We, you know, sat down at 6 o'clock every evening for dinner, and we did all these kind of family things. And in a way, I had what I was looking for and what I was searching for, that sort of family unit again.
With a family life that she'd always dreamed of, CHERYL was happier than she'd ever been. She could now turn her focus back to her work. In 1981, after 5 years on the air, multiple cast changes, and a drop in the ratings, Charlie's Angels came to an end. CHERYL began to search for a balance between personal pursuits and her career. That search would bring her to a new level of fulfillment and happiness. I'm Michael York. CHERYL Ladd, An Intimate Portrait, will continue in a moment.
Lifetime, television for women.